Welcome to module 3 of MLOps from scratch. In this module, we'll cover how to create a clean machine learning project folder structure, and we'll write the code to prepare our data set step by step. Okay, another thing I want to make mention is that if you're watching this after the premiere, this version includes improvements for better clarity and flow. It's the same content, but just better. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our folder structure and then move on to building the data preparation script. So I took the liberty of creating a setup.txt file. This setup.txt file contains all the guidelines or instructions necessary for us to successfully create our project folder structure. So the first thing we're going to do, we will create our project folder structure, and then we're going to move on to create subfolders under that project folder structure. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to create a .gitignore file. This file add rules to ignore data and models. Then once that's done, we're going to move on to the next set. We're going to download and install DVC, and we're going to initialize it in the root folder. Okay, after that, we're going to track our data sets using DVC. So what DVC does is it tracks our data and models. Okay, so once DVC has been initialized, it will create a pointer to the project, to the data set. So DVC creates a pointer to the data set that Git will use. Okay, and lastly, once you are all done, your project will look like this. Okay, at the end of the day. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up VS Code. So open up VS Code. This is the last thing we did when we're in module 2. Okay, so we're going to expand on this. Okay, so hit those 3 dots, go to terminal, new terminal. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is let me just delete that. Okay, the first thing I want to do is let's activate our virtual environment, our MLOps virtual environment that we created in module 2. Okay, so ls, so cd MLOps env, hit enter. So we want to activate our MLOps virtual environment. So activate, hit enter. So now our MLOps virtual environment has been activated. So the first thing, the next thing we're gonna do, let's just go one directory below. Okay, let's just clear that. Okay, so now let's create our project folder structure. So when you hover over the folder name here, MLOps folder name, you'll notice there's new file, new folder. So this will be created under this. So we want to create a new folder. Okay, let's give it a name. Okay, Threat Detector, hit enter. So inside here, we're gonna create our subfolders. Okay, so right click, say new folder. So the first folder that we're gonna create is called data. This is where our data sets will go into. So the next folder we're gonna create, it's model. So model will contain all our models. Okay, our machine learning models will go into the model folder. So the next folder we're going to create also is the source folder. So the source folder will contain our Python scripts. These Python scripts will be responsible for what? Helping us to do our data, to write our data preparation script. Not only that, but to also to write the code that will be responsible for training our model. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is keep in mind we're following this. Okay, so we've created our threat detector project folder, as you can see right there. Then the next thing that we did was to create subfolders under that. We created the data folder, we created the data folder, we created the model folder, we created the source folder. Okay, so but before I go to number 3, so okay, let's go back to VS Code. So inside our data folder, right, I want to create subfolders, more subfolders under this. So the first subfolder that we're going to create is called raw. So this folder will contain our raw data set. Okay, and then the next folder that I want to create is called processed. Okay, so this process folder will contain the data that we're going to work with. Okay, so this will contain our raw data, this will contain the data we're going to work with, the data that has been split into the training set and the test set. Okay, let's go back to our text file. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to create our .gitignore file. Okay, so now we're going to create our .gitignore file under the root folder of the project. So let's just take a look. Okay, take a look at your project folder here, project folder structure at the bottom here, because at the end of the day we want to achieve this. So you notice that the .gitignore file is sitting inside the root folder called MLOps course. So let's go ahead and create that. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's collapse that. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to create a file inside here, so call it .gitignore. Okay, hit enter. Okay, then here we go. So let's go back to our setup.txt file. Okay, so in here we must move on to the next thing now. The next thing that we must do is we want to install DVC. This is data version control. DVC will track our data and models. Okay, so let's go back to VS Code. Okay, so now ls, we know this is where we are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna install DVC. We're going to download and install DVC, and to check if DVC has been successfully installed. Okay, so go pip install DVC. Yeah, pip install DVC. Hit enter. Okay, give it a second. Okay, here you go. Okay, DVC has been successfully downloaded and installed. So let's actually verify that. So say DVC version, hit enter. Okay, so DVC has been downloaded successfully and installed successfully. So now we have DVC installed. So the thing that we want to do now, let's go back to our txt file, because this is our guide. Okay, so the next stage that we want to do is we need to track our raw data sets with DVC. So but before we do that, we cannot track our raw data sets if we have not created an actual data set. So the first thing we're going to do is I want you to take a look at this. So you notice here that on the next tab there's a file called README.md. MD means markdown file. Okay, so in this README file gives us the description of the project. So basically we are training a model to recognize dangerous terminal commands versus safe ones. So what you see here is the first line is on line number 3, says malicious commands. It's got double asterisks on either side. That denotes that malicious commands will be in bold. Okay, so the malicious commands will include things like deleting of files, shutting down of a system, creating unauthorized users on the system. Okay, so the safe commands, typically there's things like displaying of files, but okay, because sometimes you can actually prevent displaying of files. Okay, but we'll work with that for now. The next thing is moving folders and printing text on the screen. Okay, so the next file that you're looking at here is called commands.csv. Now this right here is our data set. Okay, the commands that we're talking about is these. You see on the left here you've got, okay, we have a file called commands.csv. CSV is a comma separated text file. Okay, so you see that it's got command and label. So the command is ls, where you list you can list you can list directories, you can list files in a directory. Okay, so mkdir, we've been using that actually, where you can create a folder. So this is regarded as save commands. As an example, echo hello, meaning it will print the text hello on the screen. So these are regarded as save commands. So the save commands are designated with the value 0, and the malicious commands are designated with the value 1. So you see here we've got the command in line 5. It says rm space.rf. This is a Linux command. This command is dangerous, man. This command right here, you can actually drop an entire file system. You can drop you can use it to drop an entire file system. You can drop important files on a system and so forth. So it's designated with the value 1. Then the next one is delete. Okay, so this is actually a Windows it's a Windows compatible command that you can run on PowerShell. The one in line 5 is actually a Linux command that you can write, or you can run on Git Bash. Remember when we installed Git Bash earlier on? Yes, in the previous modules. Yes. And then the lastly is the shutdown command. This you can use it to shut down systems and so forth. So let's go back to the README file. So remember, the save commands, they are associated with displaying of files, moving folders, and printing plain text on the screen. Okay, then the malicious commands is deleting of files, shutting down of systems, creating unauthorized users on the system. So what you're looking at here, this is basically the description of our project. Okay, so now let's go back to VS Code. Okay, so the thing that we want to do now is let's go into our Threat Detector project folder. Let's go inside the data folder. So now inside this folder right here called raw, we're going to add our data set. So let's go back to Notepad++. You can actually download Notepad++ online, or you can use normal Notepad. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so the thing that we're going to do is we want to copy this folder. We're going to copy the data that's in here. So just Control A, Control C. You copying everything in there. Okay, let's go in there. So what we're going to do is you're going to right click here and say new file. We're going to give it the name commands.csv. Hit enter. So in here we're going to paste our data set. Here we go. So now we've got our data set. So this data set is what we're going to be using basically throughout the course. Okay, so now let's go back to the setup.txt file. Okay, so what you're looking at here now, you see here step number 5, we must track raw data sets with DVC. Now that we've created an actual data set, now we must track it using DVC. So one thing to note here, the thing that I want you to note is that when we're gonna run, because we've downloaded and installed DVC successfully, so now we need to run this command. We must go back to step 4. We must run DVC init. This initializes DVC to start tracking data sets and models. Okay, so here we go. I want you to pay close attention here. All right, okay, let's just clear that. So now you notice we are in the MLOps course root folder. Okay, present working directory. This is where we are. So the thing that we need to do is, what we have done before is that we ran git init in the root folder. So now we must, because we did that, we must now run dvc init in the root folder as well. Okay, let's go back to the requirements.txt. If you look here at the bottom, you will see that .dvc, this came up as a result of running dvc init. Okay, I had to run this experiment so that I can be able to produce this, so that you can see what will eventually be in your project folder structure. Okay, so let's go back to VS Code. Okay, what I want to do is let me just close that. I'll close that as well. I'll close that. I'll just open this for now. Okay, so here what we're gonna do is we're gonna run the dvc command. So type dvc, hit init. Okay, here we go. So now you notice here, wow, okay, here we go. Excellent. So you see that we've got .dvc, we've got .dvc ignore as well. So let's go back to our project folder structure, excuse me. Okay, look at this now. You've got .get, .dvc. There it is right there. Not only that, but we also have our .get ignore, which we created earlier on. Okay, so your project folder must look something like this. Okay, so now let's go back. So the one thing that I forgot to add here is our readme.md file. Our readme.md file will sit inside our Threat Detector project folder because it's associated with the actual project name, Threat Detector. This Threat Detector, it detects and classifies malicious from non-malicious terminal commands. Okay, so what I want to do inside here, I want to create a file. Okay, readme.md, hit enter. So let's go back to our txt file. So that's it right there. So we're gonna copy this and we're gonna add it inside here. Voila. Okay, here we go. So now you see that the readme.md file is now sitting inside our Threat Detector project folder. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now let's go back. Let's go back to our setup.txt file. Excuse me. Okay, now let's do a checklist. So what we've done is we've downloaded and installed DVC. We've initialized it. And then the next thing we must do is now we must track the data set we just created using DVC. So we're gonna run this command. This command, basically what it does, it tracks our raw data set, which is commands.csv. Okay, so let's run that. But actually what I want to do is, let's remove this. All right, let's remove that, because we're gonna be inside our threat detector project folder. Okay, let's just remove that. Let's save that. Okay, here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna now run this command. Okay, go ahead and copy it. Let's go to VS Code. Okay, let's just do it clear here, so we have a clean terminal. Okay, so here we go. Let's go to our folder, threat detector, hit enter. So we're gonna run this command now. Okay, so hit enter. So now what we've done is we've created a pointer to the data set. This pointer is going to be used by get. Okay, so here we go. That's it right there. You see that? Excellent. So what you're looking at here is we successfully managed to now add our data sets to be tracked by DVC. So DVC, what it does is it will track our data set and models. In this case, at this point, is tracking our data set called commands.csv. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go back to our setup.txt file, move on to the next instruction. So the thing that we're going to do now is that you notice that, let's go back, you notice that commands.csv.dvc was created after we ran this. Okay, so this basically now, this right here is our pointer to the data set. Okay, so and this pointer to the data set is what Git is going to use to track it. Okay, so go back to the txt file. We're gonna run this command now. Okay, copy it. Let's go back, go to the terminal and just paste it. Okay, to paste it, you just right click, it will paste it automatically to the clipboard. Hit enter. Okay, so now let's see. We're running into an issue here. Wait a minute, let me do this. Actually, I think I need to run this from the root folder. Okay, let me see that. Let's do that. Okay, no. MLOps, threat detector. Okay, so let's do that. You know what, I think I need to go back and rectify this situation here. Let's say threat detector. Let's run it like this. We're gonna write it from the project folder, from the root folder. We're gonna run this from the root folder. Okay, let's go back. Let's go one directory below and right click, hit enter. Okay, excellent. Now this is good. So what we've done is because, and the reason why it didn't work earlier is because remember we ran our git init previously in module 2. In module 2 we ran git init in the root folder. So that's why when we run git commands, we're running them from the root folder, because that's where the git init was ran to create git cache files and so on and so forth. Okay, so now let's move on to the next bit. So what we are going to do now, we are going to commit the changes that we've added changes now. Now we must commit these changes. Okay, so we're gonna run this command. Git commit basically commits the changes that we have now made. Okay, so copy that, go back to the VS Code. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run that command. So just right click on the terminal, hit enter. Okay, so now this is now what we got now. Okay, so what we have now is we've got, okay, so that's from the don't worry about this. This is from the previous experiments I was running, so don't worry about that. The ones that you worry about, because we have not yet created we haven't created these, so this is from my previous experience, so don't worry about that. The ones that you should focus on is these ones right here. We've added a readme.md file. Not only that, but we also added a .gitignore file. So what we must do is we must add them, okay, so that they are tracked by Git. So git add, then you just gonna select that whole thing, right click, it will copy it, and then right click, it will paste it. Say space, we're gonna do the same for this one as well. Okay, say copy. When you right click it, it will basically automatically copy it, and when you right click again, it automatically pastes it. So right click, there we go, hit enter. So now when we do git status, you see what has been now added. This has now been added. Okay, we've added the readme.md file. We also added the .gitignore file. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to commit the changes that I've made. So say git commit -m means the message of your commit. So what we've done, we've added .gitignore, and we've added our readme file. So readme.md file, hit enter. So now this has been committed now. Okay, so when you say git status, don't worry about this. This is from the previous experience, so just ignore that. We are on the master branch. So if you say git branch, it will tell you the branch you are on. The branch that we are on right now is called the master branch. So later in the course, we'll create feature branches from the master when we have now add new features to the code, to the repository, and also it to be tracked. All right. Okay, so now the next thing that we're gonna, let's go back to our requirement.txt file. So what do we got? We have this now at the end of the day. Let's go back. So what you are seeing here now is that we've got commands.csv, which is tracked by DVC, and DVC created a pointer to the data set, which later on, which in turn Git is now using to track it. Okay, so like I said, basically, simply put, Git tracks our source code, DVC tracks our data set and models. That's it, basically. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we're just going to do a checklist to make sure that everything that we have set out to do, we've actually done it. So what you're seeing here is we've got the MLOps course, which is the root folder, and then these files have now been generated. Not only that, but we also created our project folder called Threat Detector, and then we created subfolders within that. So the next thing that we're going to do now is we're going to go right ahead and create and start building the data preparation script. So the data preparation script will be in the next section of the course. So just as a side note, what I wanted to actually so the next thing we're going to do now is, what we've done is we created our project folder structure. We also created our data set. Okay, we've set up DVC, we've initialized it, we are tracking the data sets. Okay, and then we also use Git to track the pointer files that are created by DVC. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to move on to building the data preparation script. So this course, this module 3 is broken down into subsections. So what we just did is module 3.1. Module 3.2 is where we are going to build our data preparation script. See you in the next section. Okay.